Back in the garage today, and if you can't tell by the nice little skull cap, I'm welding. And today, what I did is welded back in this cross member that I cut out that I didn't need to cut out. It's back in place. I'm gonna end up flipping the chassis back over at some point to get it welded in from the bottom, just to make sure that it's good and solid. But the next project is radiator mounts. So these are nice little pieces that I got from Chassis Engineering before they went out of business, or decided to close up shop, I guess. They didn't go out of business, but they decided to close up shop. And I picked these up on their garage sale, fire sale, whatever you want to call it, last run. And so yeah, I'm going to measure. These are made up for the original chassis. And if you can see here on this document, you have, it's meant to go inside the frame, and they're supposed to get riveted, etc., etc. We're not going to do that. We're going to weld. But I'm also going to have to cut this down here, because that's part of the portion that's meant to go inside the frame. And my frame is boxed. So I'm not going to have that little bit to do there. Instead, I'm going to cut it off and make sure that it mounts the way that this frame is going to accept it, I guess. So that's my project for now. And then I'm going to get on to a couple other things with the frame before I can start putting other things together. So the frame is sitting on its side right now. Sorry about the poor lighting here. Yeah, what I've done so far is I removed the front cross member. Let's get a little more light here. I can do it cold. I removed the front cross member, welded it back in, welded on radiator supports, and also fabricated a sweet little mount for the brake pedals, brake and clutch pedal assembly. So that all goes on here. That's what I've been spending some time on, getting this right and figured out. And so now I'm going to cut out these old ugly temporary transmission brackets and fabricate some new ones. So you can all watch here and follow along as I do that. All right, so I've already measured what I need to do here, and a rough picture of what I want to do is, let me see, I gotta look at this camera and see how close yeah, all right, well, that's good enough. So a rough picture of what I want to do is this here. We're basically going to have a bracket that looks like, let me set this thing down so I can show you what's going on. There we go. All right. Rough idea of the bracket that I'm going to do is like so. So if you've got the frame here, that's where you're going to get mounted to. And the bracket that I'm going to build is going to come across like this, come down like so, hit here, and then look like so. It's not quite the scale. That's a little bit better. Not quite the scale, but that's basically what it's going to look like. This leg here has got to be 2.5 inches. Down to here, this dimension needs to be 3.5, because this is an inch, if you can't do that math. But that's kind of what it needs to look like. This dimension here from the front of the frame to where the hole is, the center line here, is, I just measured this. I want to say it's an inch and 3/4. I'll have to remeasure that. But I think it's 1 3/4. I think. All right, so there's one done. Well, kind of done. Got a template-ish now for this one. So I'm going to use that to mark out my next one, which has to be a little different because of the bracketry that I made up for the brake pedals. Passenger side doesn't have that, obviously. Driver's side does. They're slightly different. So I'm going to use this one to mock it up, but I'm not going to cut it out until I make some measurements on the other side, which means I got to put the engine back in to make sure this stuff's going to work. So I'm going to take this one, draw out a template for the other one, leave myself some room for changes, and then yeah, I'm gonna bend this one, weld it up to the frame, and then drop the engine back in place to see how everything lines up before I cut out the other one and weld it on. So yeah, that's we're gonna pull an engine a couple of times today. Well, there you have it. That is a bracket for a transmission mount. You know, just a note on fabrication. Everybody has a different way of doing things. Some people prefer to weld them, so you can cut it apart, make it into 3 pieces. Some people prefer to do it this way, in 1 piece. And obviously they make a lot of equipment that makes this a lot easier so you don't have to heat it up and bend it the way that I just did. I'm kind of working off of old school just because that's what I've got on hand right now, so that's the way that things are getting done. But there's all sorts of different ways to make the same part anyways. But I think this is going to fit. I just test fit it over here. So I'm going to flip this chassis back right side up and then cut off the old one, put the engine in, and line it all up and see what happens. All right, so my bracket's not going to work. My old brackets were off a little bit, and so my measurements were off a little bit. What I really need is, instead of 2.5 inches here, I need 3.5 inches center to center, or center to the back. So we're going to change this around a little bit and then fab up new brackets. I almost forgot to follow up and show y'all the finished transmission mount. The finished transmission mounts. I got them in, got welded in place. I think they'll be solid. And yeah, I got some parts to clean up, but for the most part, this frame is ready to go. I need to drill a couple of holes in the back for the fuel tank, and then we're going to start dropping stuff back in. Well, I'll probably paint it first. I think I'm going to paint it, and then I'll start dropping stuff back in. So, yeah, almost to build phase.